Let's just say that Max and George have had a pretty cordial relationship, with both not really getting in each other's way. They certainly don't have the same relationship as Lewis and Max. Well, that may just be changing after the Baku sprint race, with Max clearly furious at George and the Mercedes driver not exactly backing down. Stick around to find out if there's a new Mercedes and Red Bull rivalry brewing and who else felt hard done by at Baku. Nobody really knew how the new Formula 1 format would pan out, with a sense of cautious excitement being felt around the paddock, but judging from the Baku sprint race, this new format has definitely increased the action, with drivers really pushing it for the points. The start of the race weekend has seen plenty of race action right from FP1, where you could see the drivers pushing to get as much data as possible for qualifying in the sprint race. Maybe this new format is not so bad after all.
Verstappen immediately on the cusp of going alongside George Russell.
The sprint race certainly had its moments. I mean, we're still trying to figure out who or why AlphaTauri let Yuki back in a car that was clearly unsafe to drive. That aside, the main talking point of the sprint race was between George and Verstappen, with both clearly in the mood to race. Things generally haven't gone Verstappen's way since the drivers descended on Baku. Despite winning 2 of the first 3 available Grand Prix this season, the Dutchman lagged behind Charles Leclerc in both Friday qualifying and Saturday's sprint shootout. It meant that Verstappen started 3rd on the grid for the sprint race later on Saturday, and he immediately came under attack from Russell, who lined up in 4th. A tense battle during the first 3 corners culminated in the Mercedes star going up the inside in turn 3 and moving up to 3rd, but he controversially clipped the reigning double world champion on his way past. Such was Max's rage over the team radio that he had some rather choice words for George. Did he really just drive into the side? He asked over team radio. I don't understand how he can keep the position and he is damaging my car. Find it ridiculous.
Wait for the start-finish line, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it.
Max did eventually get his own back, and later retook the position ahead of Mercedes at turn 1, passing Russell on lap 9 after the race restarted following a crash from Yuki Tsunoda. After Verstappen retook 3rd place, the Red Bull pitwall commented the lovely job he did by saying, "Without contact as well, nicely done." Clearly still smarting from the earlier incident, Verstappen responded, "Yeah, I know how to do that." Now, the drama didn't end there, with Max and George having an exchange of words at the end, with both of them clearly not happy with the situation. But tensions boiled over after the checkered flag as Verstappen confronted Russell in the paddock, with a fiery exchange between the two drivers. "I had no grip. I was locking up," Russell told Verstappen, to which the Dutchman replied, "We all have no grip."
Verstappen goes a bit deep, but he makes that overtake stick.
"We all need to leave a little bit of space." "Yeah, well, what do you want me to do?" Russell responded as he walked away from Verstappen. "Then expect the same next time," Verstappen shouted towards the Mercedes driver, signing off by calling Russell a dick. Once the dust settled, cameras revealed that the lap 1 collision had opened up a gaping hole in the Red Bull side pod. Verstappen's post-race interview with Sky Sports was fiery, and he refused to accept the 25-year-old's apology. When asked whether harmony had been restored with Russell, an angry Verstappen responded, "No, it's not clarified. I don't understand why you need to take so many risks, understeering into my side pod and creating a hole." He had a beautiful way of explaining, "Oh, I locked up, look on the onboard, but it's fine, we got some good points, but it is what it is." Max is always painted as the perennial villain in these situations, but was it actually his fault? And what did George actually have to say about this all? This won't be the first or the last time that Max has an issue with a driver. After all, when you're this competitive, it just comes with the territory. But was it his fault this time? Karun Chandok of Sky Sports seems to think he can understand why George Russell apologized, but didn't exactly say if it was George's fault or not. But he did have this to say.
Max Verstappen against Lewis Hamilton. They both got away quite evenly. Hamilton tucks in behind the Red Bull and Leclerc already alongside Valtteri Bottas.
You can talk about should Max have been in that position, should he have taken the risk? But in terms of a pure racing mode, I can see why George apologized for that, because he did ultimately make the mistake of a little bit of a lockup. Max felt he can't go anymore on the outside, he's got the wall there as a limiting factor. The stewards felt it was just a racing incident and no further investigation was needed, but I'm sure F1 fans around the world will have different opinions about it. Comment and let us know who's at fault here, or is it just a racing incident? We've heard most of Verstappen's side of the story, but what did George have to say about this whole thing? "I was down the inside, and I think as the driver you know the risks when you're on the outside. I'm here to fight. I'm here to win, and I'm not just going to hold back because he's leading the championship." I was quite surprised he was still trying to hold it around the outside. It's a street circuit, and he has a lot more to lose than I have. None of the contact was intentional. I was doing my best to try and have a clean fight. I was quite surprised he was resistant to the position. I was on the inside. Fighting words from George, with the British driver clearly not going to lie down and let Max walk all over him. That reminds us of another British driver. I wonder who else doesn't just back down to Verstappen.
So it goes into turn 1 behind Max Verstappen. Bottas is being challenged all the while.
But clearly, George doesn't really get Verstappen, as the Brit was rather confused as to why Verstappen was so angry. I was surprised why he was so angry, to be honest. He still finished the race in P3. He's got enough experience to know that if you're trying to overtake a guy on the outside, there's a risk the guy on the inside is going to run wide into you. I don't think anything would have been different had the positions been reversed, Russell told Sky Sports. Right. So George has apologized and Max is still fuming, and most likely won't get over it for a long time as his principal has called him an elephant. I think he voiced his opinion to George. It's probably a good idea that he left his crash helmet on, Horner said of the post-sprint bust-up between Verstappen and Russell. But you can understand that. He's a competitive driver, and when you get damage to your car and it affects your race, I'd be disappointed if he was just happy with that. He's like an elephant. He'll remember that. He'll bank that for a while. We can't be sure if we agree with Horner about if George should have kept his helmet on. Surely Max wasn't that angry, but who really knows? One thing that we are most certain about is that Max definitely won't forget. Just ask his teammate Sergio.
Daniel Ricciardo's got Lando Norris, his teammate, for company as they head now.
You may be wondering what Toto Wolff thought about this whole matter, and who he thought was at fault. Trust me, the answer is really not going to shock you when the Mercedes team principal had this to say. He's been on the outside, so of course you stay over. But he knows that well anyway. They've known each other for 15 years. They've driven karts together. They know each other very well. If you're on the outside, there's a chance you'll get pushed out. That's what happened then, as the Austrian makes very clear that he saw nothing wrong with his driver's maneuver. Who would have thought that Toto would have sided with his team? Probably everyone, but what did Horner think of it all? Turn 2 was hard racing between two hard races. The bit that felt a bit over the top for me was turn 3. There's contact at turn 2. George is trying to leave him enough space, but it's a very tight corner. That's where I think the damage to the side pod was done. For me, I think it was what happened at the next corner that I think George just runs him too far into the wall there. Unfortunately, the result of it was that we ended up with a lot of bodywork damage, a big hole in the side pod, and that cost him quite a bit of performance. It's difficult to quantify, but when you see a hole like that in bodywork, it's got to be 3/4 of a second a lap at least, maybe more. And then there's other complications. Temperatures start going out of control because the air is not running through the side pods as it's designed to do, Horner told Sky Sports F1.